right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Give me 1 second here. Mic check. All right, cool. That's working. All right, happy Friday. As always, thank you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch the show. Of course, we'll be covering more Sebastian Rogers. Going to be breaking down the timeline that early morning on both sides, KP and Crispy. We'll be breaking down both of their timelines from the details that we know of. And also that I've got a new screenshot that we'll show as well. And we'll also, if we get time, talk a little bit about that 3M car. But as always, we always like to give back by featuring missing people. So, and that did not save like it should have. Let's see, is she still there? Never mind. Oh, there she is. Okay. Never mind. We do have her. I was going to say, did it not save to my thing? All right. So today's missing is Jasmine Ortiz. Last missing March 19th. So that's 2 days ago. Out of Phoenix, Arizona. It says she's 17 at the time, 125 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes, a scar above her lip. So she was last seen near 7th Street and Camelback in Phoenix, Arizona. She does have disabilities and requires medication. She has run away previously and was found, so it sounds like possibly another a runaway situation. It says does have cognitive capabilities. So she's, even though she's 17, she's kind of younger. They say 8 years old in the notes here. If anybody has any information, they can call 602-262-6151. Again, Jasmine Ortiz, missing out of Phoenix, Arizona. Went missing on March 19th. Doesn't say what time. But again, if anybody's out in that direction, please be on the lookout for Jasmine. Here, we'll zoom in on her. So I'm assuming this is for her scar, but I don't really see. Oh, okay. I think. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can kind of see it there. Yeah, beautiful girl. Here's her in the dress. I'm assuming closer to 17. And again, number 602-262-6151. All right, let's get going. Make sure everything is running smooth. Oh, thank you, Amy. Yeah, it is my pleasure. I always try to get back. Again, I do take requests. I think there was a request in my email. For some reason, I can't find it, but I will look for it. I get so many emails, so please, if you have emailed me, please be patient. I try to take a certain amount of time each day to get back to people, but again, I'm just one person, and I do sometimes get just a ton of emails, and it's just so hard to kind of go back and forth. So let's see, make sure chat's running good. All right, so let's start with let's see where it's at. Okay, so during Wednesday's live, we kind of talked about the 3M car. We've got a couple of screenshots and a couple of frames of this car. Still have no idea who this person is, even though allegedly the PI has claimed they figured who this person is. But again, the neighborhood, the locals there, they have no idea who this person was. As far as we know, it was seen on the 3M on the night that Sebastian went missing. And then that next morning, it was seen at 3:15 doing the exact same thing, driving up Kellen and turning right back around. And it's the big question is, what is it doing? And so I did the time difference on the car between the 26th and the 27th, between 2 points, basically point A, between this tree and this pole here. Oh, I got it full. I'm sorry. 1 second. I just realized I got a full screen here. 1 second. And on the night that Sebastian went missing, we see it come by at 2:58 54 seconds as it's going up the top of Kellen. And that camera looks, you can basically see at the top of Kellen, and the basically the end of the neighborhood there, which I'm just going to pull up just so we have reference here. Okay, there we go. But so we can even kind of see this house, the one up here. But again, it's a dead end. You know, even now, of course, a year later, they have now built more residential area, which now is going to combine this Devon into this what looks like Willow Bend Drive. I'm assuming that's what it stands for, but Willow Drive, whatever. But before that, obviously, you couldn't take a right there. And anyway, they believe you can see the car just kind of making a U-turn. So the question is what was it doing? It driving all the way up Kellen, and it's going fairly fast. Again, not saying it's going like 50 miles an hour, but it's clearly going up Kellen and turning right back around, which is just weird, And we kind of did some research after that. The paper, I forget the times, but the paper only comes on, I think, Thursday. So everybody's thinking that, then maybe this is, like the Paperboy. Paperboy only comes on Thursday, and then I think there's one other different kind of company paper, but they wouldn't be coming until well after 6 a.m., 5, 6 a.m. Definitely not at 3 a.m. So again, very strange what this car was doing. But again, it was seen on the 26th, the night he went missing. And then strangely, at 3:15, it does the same thing. And it appears to be the same exact car. I did an overlay, which we'll see here, which is really strange. I know right there it kind of looks like it's got two separate lights, but I think that's just kind of from the motion blur. Because when you see in other screenshots, it's just the one light. So I think it's just kind of that particular one that SF had posted makes it kind of look like it's got two lights, but I don't think that's the case. But the car fits almost perfectly, or it does, in my opinion. It does appear to be the same exact car, but it's so interesting that and someone corrected me because I thought it was a 2 different time difference, but literally between point A and point B, from when it drives up Kellen, so you would say this is point A, it turns around, and then obviously point B with the same spot, and what is the time difference? And again, it's 41 seconds. And then Silver's on the scene, who had driven back in October, something like that, had drove through the neighborhood, and even him going fairly slow and going all the way up, and he even went down Devon and circled around. He wouldn't have time to, stop at a home to say deliver DoorDash or anything like that. There's just no way, unless you're throwing it out the window. What is the purpose of this car going all the way up this road to a dead end just to turn around? So odd. Wasn't the car parked by the common area at 3:30? That car had already left when the car by the common area. So the 3:30 is the DoorDash on the 26th. This car is at 3. And then, of course, we have the video, but of course the timestamp is frozen at 3:11, but we believe it is around that time, coincidentally, that there is a car. And there's something that I do want to point out in this, and then we're going to get into the timeline because there's some interesting stuff. But and then I've got a new screenshot to show you guys as well. Yeah, so the common area. So I think you're asking when that car is basically kind of stopped here. you know, we assume it's got to be between 3 and 3:15. Because I would assume the DoorDash driver would have probably mentioned something, although they could have driven up there and missed something. Who knows? But I mean, what are the chances between 3 a.m. and 3:30 you had 3 different cars going through? Not to say it couldn't happen, but I don't know. Seems odd. Yeah, that's the $1 million question, Lily. Exactly. It wasn't seen, from what I understand, it wasn't seen the night before he went missing. So Sunday morning, right? Yeah, it would have been Sunday morning. So the 25th was not seen. But Monday morning when he went missing, 3 a.m. And then on Tuesday, 3:15. So yeah, really weird. So we'll get into the timeline, but one more thing I wanted to point out. I'm not sure what you mean, Adam. I wonder if we're dealing with 2 scene sets here.
He's not there, and then what you say, she calls Chris.
Chris calls.
Yeah. Sure. So not to say it doesn't happen, because, you know, Brad Kober case, the Idaho, you know, they ordered DoorDash at 4 a.m. Was it 4 a.m.? Yeah, 4 a.m. But again, what's the purpose of that car going up there if it's just going to turn right back around, right? Because that camera, that particular home's got multiple cameras, right? And there's even more homes that have cameras, but that particular home has multiple cameras. So they can see a lot of what that car does towards the top of Kellen. And again, it's just driving all the way up to a dead end and turning back around and going at a fairly decent speed. Again, why? And during the time when he goes missing, I mean, could it be a strange coincidence? Maybe. But here's the other thing I wanted to point out. I know we've looked at these videos a million times. I just wanted to point out another thing about this video, because I know some of the other, you know, the other side is watching.
They called on 3-way calls.
And here's my question to them. Let's see. So there's the DoorDash at 3:30. Let's see. Do I put it in there? Okay, let me move this forward. And yeah, here's me overlaying the 2 cars. But yeah, it's definitely the same car. So the other thing I want to mention before we move to the timeline is think about what this person is doing. So, you know, when we go back to the leaked footages, right? And clip number 2, which is, you know, in my opinion, one of the biggest ones, because this shows what appears to be a vehicle. You know, some claim it's not, but think about where this person centers the camera, right? So just think about, you know, we always believe this, my theory and others, that this is a car. Think about what this person does, because remember, for those that don't know what's going on, is the homeowner that had this surveillance, for some reason didn't know how to, you know, pull video off the server itself. So what you're seeing, basically, is the server, which is just like a DVR. They call it an NVR, same thing, DVR. And you can kind of see the player on the outline, right? It's cut off, but we can kind of see it. It's got the calendars. Of course, I've explained that in part 1 and a little bit in part 2, if you guys haven't seen it. But the main thing I just want to point out is, again, so if anybody doesn't know, this person's taking a cell phone, and unfortunately, they probably had a bunch of lights on in their home or wherever it was going on, and so it really drowned out all the, you know, important things that weren't lit up, basically, because obviously it's very dark. Even though they could see it in the original footage, but the stuff that was leaked out, you know, we couldn't see it because obviously it lost a lot of quality when they recorded it from the cell phone. Now, of course, obviously law enforcement has the originals, so they can actually see this. But just think about what this person's doing, right? They're zooming in, right, with their cell phone. Look at what they're focused on, right? They're not really focused at the top. They're not really focused on this. And now keep in mind, this is the biggest thing. Next to the two little lights moving in the background, right? One of the biggest things in these clips, comes alive in clip number 2. Compared to the, two little moving lights in the background. And just think about like where they're zooming in. Again, it's just an argument of why this is more just tells you that this is a car, right? Because like, wouldn't you more focus like maybe on this, or maybe you would zoom in on this? But if you see, I mean, of course it's not exactly in the middle, but if you think about it, I mean, clearly, where are they trying to center this video on? Right? Here's the exact center, right? So just to kind of show you. But, I mean, if you move that to the left a little bit, obviously, what are they trying to focus on, right? And this is just kind of argument to the other side. They're not zooming in all the way on this big giant light source, or they're not zooming in completely on this. But clearly, they're trying to focus in on what's almost in between it, which obviously, in my opinion, and what I've heard, was a vehicle. And this was around 3 a.m. And so anyway, I wanted to show that. So one thing that I've heard about Uber drivers is they'll literally pull in, usually 9 out of 10 times, unless the I'm going to pull this forward. Unless the driveway is like blocked in some way, they'll usually either pull into the driveway, just like this. Again, this is a different kind of Uber driver. This guy's, gonna take him to the airport. But again, usually an Uber driver, remember, they get paid by time, so of course they're gonna pull over and get out, and none of them on the cameras that I know of, that car is seen stopping somewhere on Killen. So, I mean, if it delivered to something, say down here, I'm sure they would have probably turned around somewhere in a driveway. Again, I'm just elaborating, but again, the bigger thing is what are the odds that you have this mysterious car at 3 a.m. and there is an unknown vehicle at 3 a.m. or somewhere around in that period, between 3 and maybe 3:15, that there's a car that turns onto Stafford with its lights off, right? We've kind of gone over this, but anyway, could there have been another car that snuck in while this event was going on? It's certainly possible, but clearly something set that motion sensor off. And yeah, in my opinion, with none of the locals having no idea, they knew about the Uber driver, right? The 331 that picked up the guy for the airport, but they have no idea who this individual was. All right. So moving on. Okay. So yeah, I apologize for starting later. I wanted to build a very extensive timeline that we know of. And again, some of it, is kind of approximate, of course. Some of it's more exact. But there are some very interesting things with this timeline that I put together between Katie and Chris. And I tried to put them together, and we'll focus on Katie first and then Chris. But we're just going to kind of go through the timeline that we know and the details that have been shared since then. Oh, see, there we go. So here, yeah, so this is great. I deliver DoorDash. I pull in the driveway or directly out front of the home, even if I have to pull in the wrong way in front. Right. Thank you, Janine. I think it's Janine. Yeah, and I've heard from multiple Uber or DoorDash, Uber Eats and DoorDash, they're the same thing, just two different companies like Burger King and McDonald's. But yeah, because you guys, they're getting paid. The faster they go and pick up and deliver their food to the customer, then they can move on to the next order. So they're basically getting paid. The faster they go, the better pay they get. I know it's a little bit more than that, but basically that's kind of like the basic concept. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, because that's what I've heard. Girl Mom says, is it possible that something is blocking the view of the car on the curb, so the car would be on the other side of a trailer or a vehicle? Not from what I heard, Girl Mom. Not to say that's not a bad question. I see exactly what you're saying. Like, is there something like blocking? No. And that's why the person is trying to zoom in. But again, they weren't thinking. They probably were in a very lit room, not knowing if they probably would have turned off the lights. I don't know how much more. You may have seen probably a little bit more details. You may not have had as much light pollution. Again, how much quality was lost just by doing that was probably quite a bit, because again, it's not like it's daytime, it's nighttime. And the best thing I can reference is you trying to zoom in on like a UFO at night, and you start to zoom in and the lights start kind of like freaking out because your lens is trying to adjust. And I think again, and that's why you got all this stuff that appears to be crawling all over the truck, but that's not what's really going on. It's just the camera lens itself is trying to adjust to these lights as it's zooming in. But no, I literally, multiple people were out there when this homeowner came out. I'm not going to say when, but it was last year, like late summer, maybe fall. And they spoke to multiple people on both sides of the coin, if you know what I mean. And he literally pointed straight across from his mailbox and said, that's where the car was parked. It was parked there with its lights off. It turned its lights on, and it backed up onto Killen. And then, of course, it was out of his view after that. But everything that I've heard from that came from that homeowner has still stood up to this day. But great question, Girl Mom. I have looked at that as well, wondering if like maybe the truck kind of was casting a shadow on it, because there is that white truck that's kind of sitting here. Would it kind of cast a shadow? Because the light source is coming, right? We have two different light sources. Sorry. So we have the one static light source that they have, and then clearly a motion sensor that's kind of somewhere above these garbage bins. Now, of course, it's since moved. So you do have a light source that's definitely kind of coming slightly on an angle. So maybe this truck, maybe what it could be doing is also, I don't know, because it still seems a little bit far away, but it could be, we don't see it obviously, but it could be kind of maybe casting a bit of a shadow onto the vehicle. Again, that would just kind of outside the box thinking. But yeah. Maybe one day, we will see that vehicle. Wallflower, thank you so much for the support. Means the world. I do spend hours upon hours trying to put these shows together, because I do like to have a visual presentation for you guys. But again, thank you so much. Yeah, that was always the thought. Some kind of Nissan Altima or Sentra or Maxima. The main thing was a silver four-door sedan, right? And they believed it was some kind of maybe Nissan. Not sure exact make, or model, I should say. All right, I'll get to some more questions here in just a minute. So here is the timeline, and we'll start to break it down. I know there's kind of a lot on the screen, but we'll kind of slowly break this down. We'll start with Katie, right? So let's listen. What I did is I put in little clips of interviews where they mention these times, so we can kind of reference, these different times, and then you'll start to see I'm going to add on things in between what I think could be some red flags, and and see what you guys think. And maybe there's some stuff that I may have missed. That maybe there's an interview. I mean, I know I feel like I've watched them all a bunch of times, but
9:46 in the evening.
You can always miss one little detail that they mentioned, right?
We stayed on the phone for quite some time. The call logs have been verified by all the police departments, TBI included. We stayed on the phone. It was very lengthy. Mom did slightly start falling asleep while she was on the couch.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, you got to document that. Yeah, both the customer and the DoorDash or / Uber Eats, depending on, I guess, who's out there. I think it's Uber Eats that's out there. Or maybe both. I'm not sure. But yeah, so both have, the customer's going to have you have an app when you have Uber Eats or DoorDash, and both the customer and the driver both have the app on, and they're both basically GPS, because that way they can see where your position's at. Even though they have your address, they can even see your position. You can see at any point, once they've accepted your order, you can see where they're at. So again, it's very detailed, and you're right. They'll take a picture when they deliver the product. Okay, so let's get into this timeline.
Actually, so to make something very crystal clear, so that way there's transparency across the board. Me and the mom were on the phone at 9:43 or 9:46 in the evening.
Shortly 7.
We stayed on the phone for quite some time. The call logs have been verified by all the police departments, TBI included. We stayed on the phone. It was very lengthy. Mom did slightly start falling asleep while she was on the couch.
So I want to bring this part up just because we'll come back to this. But this is kind of when she goes to bed, right?
I had said, hey, you need to wake up, put the dogs up, go to bed.
Did you also go to bed at midnight, or before or after?
No, ma'am. We went to bed around the same time because we were on the phone together.
And
He was not home.
please excuse any of my questions. I'm simply trying to find out more about that night. Do you two sleep in the same bedroom?
He wasn't actually in the home at all that weekend. Christopher
You were
wasn't.
not home.
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
so where were you, Mr. Proudfoot?
I was in Memphis, Tennessee.
How far away is that?
3 hours and 37 minutes from doorstep to doorstep.
And I think that just is so. It's just so weird that they're so vague on certain details of the timeline, and I know a lot of people have mentioned this to death, but this will be relevant to what we'll get to at the end. But this whole 3 hour and 37 minute, very very precise. Even though with the drive with what 300 mile, I forget how many miles that is, but clearly with that amount of miles between two destinations, that's not always going to be the same time frame, right? You go a little bit faster if there's, so I think it's kind of ridiculous that, he's got this 337, right?
And what were you doing in Memphis?
Unless he was looking that up on Google, which would be kind of interesting. I don't know why you would be doing that, to get that specific time?
Memphis.
Working.
Where do you work?
Currently.
Okay, so they basically, that part is to say, hey, we both went to bed around midnight, right? And they had the phone call between we'll just say 9:45 and midnight, right? So we have a 2 hour and 15-minute phone call. 2 hour and 15-minute phone call, which is very interesting to keep in the back of the mind. Then we have the 3 a.m. incident going on. We have this weird 3 a.m. car hauling, I'm trying to be careful with the word saying hauling up because I don't want to make it sound like it's going 50 miles an hour, but it's going at a decent speed, right? Just to make a U-turn at 2:58. And then coincidentally, sometime around 3 a.m. or just a little after, we have the mysterious lights moving around. So we have that event going on.
This was
But our main focus is going to be just before and really after, right after she wakes up, right? What's going on, and we're going to combine both of them. Is it 226 miles? Thank you, Teresa. Actually, I'm going to write that down. Bless you. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Okay.
garbage men. The garbage men claimed that
And again, I usually try to have the creators thing up here. I apologize, for some reason I might have it zoomed in. This is Sweetie Pilo. Definitely a huge shout out to her. This interview is just amazing. Again, another thing, like I said, I've kind of played this a lot in more recent times. When she had interviewed the neighbor that lived right across from the Proudfoots, who has a Ring camera that looks at, the Proudfoot home, and she went back and reviewed that, and then I guess Sweetie Pilo had gotten a hold of her, and so she shared the time frame and certain time stamps, and so far, and even now today, there's even more that we can check off that what she was told by this lady is been spot on.
that the trash that was taken out that day, because garbage was collected on Monday morning at about 5:12 a.m. And
512, obviously it's 509 on Killen Ave, but once it gets around to Stafford, of course, and we'll see a screenshot here in a minute, it is 512 on the dot.
Garbage people claim that the trash was a bit heavier than usual, which I don't know how they even...
And so she goes into why from what she heard, is why they were searching the landfill, is they believed it was a little bit heavier than usual.
Gauge something like that, but somehow that tip is what led them to the landfill. As of right now, both the mom and stepdad, I would say they're compliant, but in a lot of ways, it's hard to say. They need to know, though, is about these weird, bizarre lights. I'm sure you guys have heard about them, but...
Then we go to 512. That's what she just mentioned here with the garbage truck, which here we have. That's
she observed when she went...
So that's the Proudfoot home.
Back through her footage. Was at... So at 5:12, the trash came. Okay,
Yeah.
That would have been on Monday morning.
So trash comes. All right, so we're going to be focusing on when she woke up, and we'll move on from there. So in one interview, that's the thing is, they're pretty specific. They get in a lot of detail before the day before on Sunday, about what they did with Sebastian and certain time frames, but and then very specific just before they get to bed, 9:43, 9:46 to somewhere around midnight, and then once it gets to that morning, it gets really vague. And so there's two different answers. One 6 a.m. and then one, I think she says 6:03.
Central to 47-180, 412. Juvenile left his son at the house. The mother is driving around looking for him in the Victoria Place subdivision, and she is driving a baby blue Infiniti.
Let's get there and see what's going on. Do our own search of the residence. We'll go from there.
So, in your mind, that's usually around what time? When do you normally wake up? Around 6 o'clock?
6.
So there she is, saying 6 o'clock.
After I looked.
And then in this interview with Chronicles, she said she woke up at 6:03. So I'll just use 6:03 to kind of give her a little bit of a buffer zone. But then in both these interviews, in multiple, she says she wakes up. One of them, she says, after checking 1 minute flat, she gets a hold of Chris. Another one, she says 3 minutes.
And I mean, mind you, all of this took place in like 1 minute flat. But I didn't see him in his room. I looked all over.
So here we go. We look at the timeline here, and again, I'm gonna do more with this. This spent a lot of time putting this together, and I'm gonna try to get it more cohesive, and probably I'll put it just like, all just in one row. If that makes sense, but I kind of wanted to split them up. Just to kind of show some certain things. But
Mom comes out. It could have even been 6:30. It was sometime in that window. Mom comes out. She sees neighbors. There's multiple neighbors outside at that point, and she starts saying, "I can't."
So I think she says 6:20. In this one, she says 6:30, but I think she was told 6:20, which I think is spot on.
I can't find some.
And so let me back this up one more time. So she wakes up 6:03, looks for Sebastian either 1 to 3 minutes, then the three-way call to Chris, and then at 6:20 approximately is when she comes out and she's seen on camera, from the neighbor's door ring cam, and this is what she saw.
Comes out. It could have even been 6:30. It was sometime in that window. Mom comes out. She sees neighbors. There's multiple neighbors outside at that point, and she starts saying, I can't find Sebastian anywhere. I can't find him anywhere." Now, I don't think she's much said that part of the story, that she actually came outside of her home.
Yeah, and that's interesting. She never, and so one of the questions, we've mentioned it before, but I would love to see that footage or a screenshot. Was she on the phone, right? Maybe she had a Bluetooth with her, who knows? But again, at that point, she, according to her stories, she should be at that point on the phone with Chris, right? So I would love to see that screenshot, whether to back that up or not. And again, she's also screaming for Sebastian at approximately 6:20. Get these. Thank you so much, Wallflower. I think I got you, but thank you so much, sweetheart. And Jay's, thank you so much for gifting a Mob Crew membership. If you get gifted a Mob Crew membership, if you could thank the person, thank you so much, sweetheart. Christy Smith, thank you so much for becoming a member. You are a legend. Thank you so much. Just keep doing what you do, Chris. Great work. Thank you so much, Paperman. Girl Mom says, is it possible CP had a work truck and met someone in the neighborhood and that car was a Scout? Thank you for all your hard work. You were awesome. Oh, thank you so much, Girl Mom. Right back at you. I do have a theory, something to that effect. I think that's not a bad theory. And I do have something, along the lines of that. So, yeah, great comment.
I did.
You did.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
time?
Okay, this is important. All right, so I'm sorry. So again, Right now we're left at 6:20. Remember, 6:20 is when approximately around 6:20 is when she walked outside, was seen on camera screaming for Sebastian.
I did.
You did.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
time?
Without looking at a call log, I can't give you the exact time, but on or about 6:20.
6:20. Now I know he's kind of saying around that time, but it's very interesting. Remember, that's around the time that Katie's seen on camera screaming. So remember, he's saying he's now called 911 at around 6:20. This is very important, and we'll kind of get more into it here in a minute. But we got that jotted down.
Do we have an estimated time of start for the search process?
Call came in at 6:33 this morning.
Remember, they've been on the phone, and we'll get more into this as we go along, but just kind of making a note that the dispatch call came in at 6:33, yet he said 6:20, so just keep that,
Great, thank you.
keep that in mind.
Then she got into her vehicle, went over, I think, what was the school potentially. That's what it's believed anyway. She was only gone for about maybe, let's say, 10 minutes at most, maybe.
And that is like almost spot on. Like I said, everything she said, it's just, again, as the time's gone, as time, and again, this interview was done, I think, within the first month, maybe second month, with Sweetie Pilo and this video that came out that she put out. I know she did a couple of them. And, yeah, now in the last about four months, now that footage with timestamps and stuff have came out, have now corroborated so much more of what she was told by this neighbor. And again, a different neighbor than the alleged nosy neighbor. You know, there's so many neighbors that came forward in the beginning, but, you know, I think it's so stupid that, one neighbor's getting attacked, yet, there's so many that were, of course, trying to just do, help by just kind of talking about what they saw and, if, something added up and could help the case, right? So anyway, back to the time. She said it looked like she was gone for 5 to 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is like pretty much spot on, and we'll explain why here in just a second. So remember, 6:20, she's seen outside. So I'm assuming from there, she probably then went inside the house, because remember, her car is in the garage, right? So she would have to come out through the garage itself to get in the car. So I put that at around 6:21, 6:20. I put 6:22. So then she leaves at approximately 6:22, and then goes to the school.
5 to 10 minutes at most. Came back.
And we heard multiple sources and I've heard myself that so when Katie's seen going at the school, right? There's cameras there, and they say that she's only there for a brief moment, right? So do directions. Let me flip this one and put it right here. So that's the drive, right? So here's the high school, there's the field, and there's the middle school, but he was in high school. But yeah, no matter where you kind of put it, it's 3 a.m. But yeah, she was spotted somewhere, and again, she didn't get out and go tell one of the staff members at the school, like, hey, by chance, if you see my son, we didn't see him this morning. If by chance he, shows up, could you call me? She didn't do any of that. From what they say is she's just seen on the security footage, real quick, So take that for what it's worth. All right. From there, this is where we'll get a new screenshot. So the next time, and this is where, remember where she said she was gone anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. This 10 minutes is almost spot on. Because I put her at about 6:22 when she left. And then at 6:32, here we are. New screenshot for you guys. And that is Katie's baby blue Infinity. I know it doesn't look baby blue. And I know it looks a little bit like Bowersock's vehicle. I promise you, that's the first thing that when we saw this, I did some comparisons. So there's two main differences between the Bowersock's SUV and the Proudfoot's SUV, and I'll show you here. But there's the timestamp up at top, 6:32, right? Going up Kellen, from what I understand. I don't say she's going like fast or anything, but at the same time, it doesn't look like she's, like gingerly driving up and like stopping and looking and, just continuous motion, right? So take that for what it is, some think, I know there's a lot of mothers in here, that, I'm sure they could share, that they would probably, kind of go up a little bit, stop, kind of look left, right, go up a little bit, kind of stop, look around. But from what I understand, it's just she kind of drives up top Killen, turns around, and then comes back down and then goes back on to Stafford. But there's the side-by-side of the vehicles. Remember, lighting's everything. I know it looks more silver right there, but it is the baby blue Infinity. The main thing you can tell is the back, right? It has some very specific trim on the back, and I didn't get a chance, but if you took the Bowersock's vehicle, it's got the square back, right? Kind of like the Scion. I know it's not a Scion, but the I call them box SUVs or box cars. I really don't like the box design. I don't know. It's not appealing to me. But anyway, there's definitely unique angles that definitely are the mom, her car. So this is her car. Paula says, I can tell you I would drive around more than 5 to 10 minutes. That's for sure. Yeah, and that's what a lot of, mothers say. I'm just looking at chat here, trying to slow down a little bit here and get more to chat, so we can. So I know I go really fast. It's just kind of like my ADD, and I need to spend more time with chat. So I'm really trying to kind of make an effort to kind of get a happy medium going. But so there is a new screenshot from that morning of the car. Dawson, thank you so much for the dollar. I'm sorry, dollar. The $9.99. Keep up the great work, Chris. Much love. Thank you so much, Dawson. God bless. Oh, let me write that down. Wait, Seth missed a call from Chris at 6:20? How would he be able to do that if he's calling 911 and he's on a three-way call? Ginger, if there's any information like where I could source that a little bit more, That would be very interesting, Gigi. Thank you for sharing that. Very interesting. I mean, I guess you could send a text, but that's a call, right? That's much different. Interesting. Okay, moving on. Yeah, just a drive-by. Yeah, almost, again, if it was nefarious and they're involved, then it's more just for show, right?
My friend is down. I was going to be wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants. Juvenile does have a permanent autism. It's the first time it happened. I was going to be in the home before midnight. The doors are locked at this time.
10-4 now.
Central to 47-180, 412. Juvenile left his son at the house. The mother is driving around looking for him in the Victoria Place subdivision.
Sorry, guys. I'm just thinking about something. It's coming in at 6:20. That's weird. Yeah, I feel like there's something here that I. So, the call comes into dispatch at 6:33.
Doors are locked at this time.
10-4 now.
Central to 47-180, 412. Juvenile left his son at the house. The mother is driving around looking for him in the Victoria Place subdivision.
I did.
At 6:33. That's so weird. Very strange. Okay. All right.
You did.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
time?
Without looking at a call log, I can't give you the exact time, but on or about 6:20.
Okay, so I played this again. So here is kind of focused on Katie's part of it, right? So I know there's a lot. So what you got is Katie on the left side with the timestamps that we know of, right? Obviously with Chris Proudfoot, it's a little bit more. There's not a lot of stuff that we really know, right? It's more kind of word of mouth. Katie's a little bit more, we can go off some screen, some surveillance footage, and what she said in interviews. But here are some of the glaring points that stick out to me that are red flags. And really, yeah, a lot of people are saying that. 6:20, really? If he's on a three-way call, I mean, unless he's got multiple phones, unless he's got a burner phone, yeah, he's calling 911. So here's the thing with Katie, right? And then we'll look into Chris, and then we'll do this part, and then we'll read chat, and then we'll do Chris. So here's the things that kind of stick out to me, right? So she gets up, right, 6 a.m. Depending on the interview, within a few minutes, she's on the phone with Chris, right? So I kind of put it at 6:05, right, just to kind of get a time frame in there, right? Then, so if the phone call to 911 doesn't come in until 6:20, at the very least, they're on the phone for 15 minutes, which may not seem like a long time, but let me just remind you, allegedly Brian Koberger in the Idaho 4 took 4 lives in 8 to 9 minutes, stabbing each one individually, and was able to leave the scene, arrive and leave in between, doing all that, or before and after, I guess. 8 minutes to take 4 lives. So just keep in mind, 15 minutes is a long time, right? I get it, hey, you checking this area, you checking this. But, according to her, it was fast. So then we have 6:20, right? if he calls 911. But then here's the other kind of red flag. We go down to the call from the dispatch. They don't get alerted until 13 minutes if we're going off the 6:20. Again, I'm sure some of these times could be, a minute behind or ahead. But if we're going off this, there's 13 minutes before dispatch is alerted. Yet, and I get maybe you're given a description and some stuff, but that just seems kind of excessive time, that dispatch until dispatch is known. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the chat, but it just seems like, there's a lot of time before the 911, and there's a decent time, again, maybe because there's working with different jurisdictions that, and the way that they did it, since it wasn't directly to 911, he's calling the sheriff's, somebody knows, I don't know if an HPD or something like that. So, and this is Sumner County. Does anybody know in chat, is this Sumner County's scanner or is this Henderson's scanner? That would be a very interesting to know. Does anybody know in chat? I know I could probably figure this one out. Something I keep forgetting to do. But if anybody knows in chat, is this coming from the Henderson scanner, HPD, or is this coming from Sheriff County? Sumner County. Okay, Kiki says Sumner County Sheriff's Office. So that almost more implies that HPD was probably alerted first, but still, why such a big time frame? Interesting. So that likely means that he called somebody in HPD, right? Right, yeah, he didn't call 911. Oh, yeah. You're right. I do have it saying that he calls 911. I only put that in there just to, because I didn't know if it was Sumner County or HPD exactly. And it's really just about the call of when he's, it's just alerting that there's a missing child, right? So yeah, but anyway, Chris, SCSO, okay. A lot of people are saying that. All right. That the dispatch is, right? Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I know he didn't call 911. I just have that up there to just kind of reference. I think I was listening to Nancy and I typed in 911, but it's just to show the example of when now he's calling, is it Sumner County or HPD to alert. But again, the 13 minutes after where we have the dispatch is very interesting. And that's what I've been hearing, which is another red flag.
Do we have an estimated time of start for the search process?
Call came in at 6:33 this morning.
Great, thank you.
All right, so let's move over to Crispy and look at his. Right. Again, and I'm trying to do more. Again, this, like I said, this took a lot of time to kind of build, and I was trying to have them all kind of in chronological order. There's a few more things that I still need to kind of like really deep dive to maybe get either more specific times. And there is some new stuff that's kind of coming out about people speaking with Chris and what he was doing at the construction site. But here, and please correct me anything that I have wrong here in chat.
Did you also go to bed at midnight, or before or after?
No, ma'am. We went to bed around the same time because we were on the phone together.
And
He was not home.
please excuse any of my questions. I'm simply trying to find out more about that night. Do you two sleep in the same bedroom?
He wasn't actually in the home at all that weekend.
You were not home.
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
so where were you, Mr. Proudfoot?
I was in Memphis, Tennessee.
How far away is that?
3 hours and 37 minutes from doorstep to doorstep.
So weird.
And what were you doing in Memphis?
Working.
Where do you work?
Exactly, Puff Muffin. Right. Yep. Okay. So, there was kind of a thing going on, and this is the one part where I just didn't, God, I was trying to find it. I know it's out there, and I'm so upset, but I'll have it next live. But I know that he had supposedly told some people that he had gotten there at 5:15, but thanks to Silver's on the scene, he also went out there and spoken to some of the co-workers, because Chris didn't work there anymore after this. And I thought this was very interesting, this specific time.
All right.
So look at that handsome fellow right there. Clutch them pearls, Justin. But of course, we want to give full credit to Silver's on the scene, which he went. I'm not sure when this was exactly last year, but he went to speak to some people at that work site and found some very interesting stuff out.
6:30 a.m. Chris wants to make you believe 5:15. Why would he need to be at the jobs? Let's think about this for a second. Why would a tower crane operator, when no daylight is up, it is dark, why would he need to be on the job site at 5:15? I think you've seen some other creators go out there and see that others may show up, inside workers, drywall workers.
So, okay. So he allegedly said that there, and I forgot to add this clip in, but I was just there was so much I was trying to kind of put in, mixing interviews with this time, this thing that I'm building here that you see here, and just kind of trying to make it cohesive, basically. And I'll definitely have a much more detailed. It's pretty detailed right now, but I'm going to try to get it more detailed. So he tells apparently, and I'm not sure. Let me know in the chat if he said this in an interview that he arrived at work at 5:15. But I know I heard that he had told some people that he arrived at 5:15. But when Silvers went there, he was told, no, that's stupid, because of just what he just said there in the interview, that they don't start until about 7 a.m. Because remember, it's February, almost March. But, you're not going to be operating a crane, when it's pitch black, and that's just really early to be arriving at work. So it's almost like he wanted that alibi of 5:15. But what he was told, and again, this is all alleged, is that other coworkers said that he arrived more specifically at 6:30, which would make more sense because they usually start around 7 a.m. So yeah, I don't know why the hell you would be at your work site at almost 2 hours before your start time. Then this is where, and I know I've got some orange there. This is where things get a little interesting. We'll break this down at the end, but So again, let's just say if there was an abduction between 3 to 3:15 a.m., right? And let's just say possibly they were allegedly involved in some regards. Well, if he told people that he got there at 5:15, well, and he's telling people that this whole drive takes over 3.5 hours, well, then this wouldn't work because that's only a 2-hour time frame. There's no way he could get from Memphis to Henderson, right? But if he got to work at 6:30, well, that gives him a whole 3 hours and 15 minutes. Much more time to drive from Memphis to Tennessee to possibly help out in a potential abduction. Get back to his work. Because remember, he goes to bed at midnight, so he could get there easily from midnight, get there before 3 a.m., but right after the abduction, I meant to say that reverse. After the abduction, he still has plenty of time to come from Henderson back to Memphis. There we go. That's much better. Yet, he wants to tell people that it takes 3 hours and 37 minutes. But again, with over 200 miles, especially if you're driving at night, I've heard you can make that drive in about 2 to 2.5 hours. All depends on how fast you're going.
Into him. All I have to go on are his own words and behaviors. And I've said this before. Go back, find some videos. His words and behaviors make him unlikable. Make him suspect in this entire scenario. Where is Sebastian Rogers? Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one I saved. I put it kind of in the middle. Relieved at 11 a.m. Yeah, there's that pause. Let me pause a little longer. Relieved at 11 a.m. Chris was deemed unsafe on the job site. Yeah, you heard me right. Unsafe. Safety risk for him. Focus off. OFF. Unlike other days. I told you. I'm going to give Chris credit. I will give people.
So that is very interesting. It definitely sounds like he clearly spoke to multiple people. I don't know the exact details, but I've spoken with Silvers through some emails. He's, I'm sure a lot of you have probably watched some of his stuff. He seems like a pretty straightforward stand-up guy. In my opinion, he's probably done more to find Sebastian than the mother has ever had. Or the stepfather, coming all the way from, I think, Atlanta or whatever, to come out and search different areas. And, I wish I could have the honor to shake his hand one day. But anyway, so, yes, relieved at 11 a.m. approximately. So, remember, he gives this call at 6:20, where he calls into, to alert that even though he's been on the phone with her for at least 15 minutes, give or take, and then at 6:20 is when he calls, Sumner County or HPD, one of the two. Then arrives at 6:30, according to some coworkers, plural. And then he worked until approximately 11 a.m. And then they say that his focus was off, was acting strange, and deemed unsafe, right? And I guess you could argue both sides. Let's say if he had nothing to do with it, you're learning that your stepson has gone missing. So again, looking at it from both sides, I could see. But the one thing I think I cut off is he says that there was people to relieve him much earlier. So that is very strange. But then this other part is very interesting. And this just shows that this whole 3 hours and 37 minutes is BS. Because if he's relieved, again, if this is true, the math ain't mathin'. Which I just saw somewhere in the chat. There you go. Yeah. Deanna. Yep. All right. And we'll read chat here in just a minute. Almost finished with his timeline here.
Logical dad, Seth Rogers. He gets a message from, I think it was Katie, at about 7:20.
So that's interesting. She said 7:20? And then someone said 6:20. So I wonder, or if maybe both of those are correct. But then this is the other interesting part.
Saying, 911, can't find Sebastian, something like that. I'm pretty sure Chris, so the stepdad of Sebastian, he ends up coming back into town. Again, he was in Memphis working on this project. He comes back in at, I think, of around 1 p.m. All right.
So that's interesting. Now, I think he said it was more like 1:30. Let me know in chat on that one. That one's, I know there's, I don't know if that's an Elevated Truth podcast. So Seth called at 7:20. Okay. All right. Oh, you guys are helping me so much to fill in some of this. So I will fill in. Yeah, we'll probably have to do a Seth version too, right? To kind of, play it fair and, put it all together, right? Yeah, maybe that's what it is, right? Yeah, because I think the 7:20 he's confirmed. Chris P said 1:30. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so this is where it's, again, remember his whole 3 hours to 37 minutes? Well, if he got relieved at around 11 a.m., and he got back to the Rogers home at 1:30, well, that's only 2.5 hours, right? And when you start to look at some of these little gaps, right? If you look at the gap between 3:15 and sorry, there's dogs barking. Oh, there's one I think I got it missing something. I missed my train of thought, what I was going to try to say. But usually there's an interesting thing where he can make it between 2 to 2.5 hours, one way, from Memphis to Tennessee. I'm sure it kind of depends on the time of day, but especially if you're working in the middle of the night, if you're doing that, probably can make up a shorter time frame. But yeah, very fascinating. If that is true, that he was able to get back within 2.5 hours if he was relieved around 11 a.m., which I'm assuming he didn't take the trailer, he just took his truck. But somebody mentioned something earlier about, let's say after they got off the phone at midnight, right? This whole 9:45 to midnight phone call, which some people think is an alibi. Either he could have been driving and had his phone left on, which I don't know if they did that. I almost think he left right after that phone call, but that phone call was just there to just say that he's there in Memphis. But second they got off, is it possible Chris maybe had not his truck, but another vehicle by chance, and then drove back, and now we know that he can make it in somewhere around 2.5 hours. And then remember, if the theory holds up that abduction happens at 3 to 3:15, he definitely has plenty of time between midnight and 3 a.m. to get there, and perhaps help in this. And then right after that, he has plenty of time from 3:15 to 6:30 to get back to Memphis. Make the call at 6:30 or 6:20. Because he'd be on the phone. Be on the phone at 3:15. 6:05 starts. I'll say 6:15. Yeah, it's 3 hours. Yeah, there's a little bit more math I got to do, but yeah, it wouldn't matter time change, because we're just looking from point A to point B. So oh, I see what you mean with time. Oh. Yeah, okay. All right, that is a good argument. You would lose an hour, right? If you're driving west to east, right? You would lose an hour. It goes up. Yeah, that is okay. That is a great point. I didn't think about that. Interesting. Great point. This is why. Oh, they're both. Oh, never mind. No time change. Oh, okay. I'm sitting there trying to do the math. No time change. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point, Kathy. Yeah. Now this is more in the kind of afternoon on a Monday, where you'd have people going to lunch, right? Yeah. Much different. Again, assuming he got off relieved at 11, unless it was, more like 10. But again, we have to kind of, work with what we have. But yeah, that's interesting. Why that 3 hours and 37 minutes, right? That's almost a whole hour more. That there's a lot of wiggle room to tell people. Yeah, no time change. Very interesting. Let me get to chat. We got some more, and that's something I don't mention a lot, but there are other ways. I do have Patreon. I do have PayPal and Venmo. Again, it's not something I mention a lot, but they are there in the description. If you'd like to support me that way, because I know not everybody. Sometimes people can't use the donation thing on YouTube. But if you do by chance, please let my mods know so I can thank you in chat. All right, we still have a few more things to go over. We started at 6:30. Yes, but I'm going to add more onto that. Yeah, and I definitely think I want to add Seth's time frame as well. Might as well add in his work. So I kind of want to build a little bit before this, even though we've kind of went over that. But I want to build kind of the night prior a little bit more detailed with the numbers and everything on there. So we have basically Sunday night. But yeah, and then just kind of add in with the Seth Rogers of what we know, so we can kind of all just put all these times together, right, and see where there's some kind of, in my opinion, possible red flags. Again, this more or less 30-minute phone call that they have seems very very suspicious. And hopefully we'll learn some more about that. But here, I'm going to leave this up so I can read chat.
And I picked up the phone and I called my husband and I said,
So I'm going to play this a little bit just so you can hear her just reminding us how quickly she called Chris and allegedly the ball was rolling. But yet there is some big time, 15 minutes is a lot.
I can't find him. And he said, what do you mean? I said, he's not in this effing house. I can't find our son. And I jumped in my car and I drove around the neighborhood and I drove over by the school, and he's already at this point I was hysterical and I was crying, I was screaming, and he was three-wayed law enforcement and was telling them our son is missing and we don't know what's going on, and he was go back to the house, they're on their way, and I ran back.
Go back to the house. 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 6:20. It calls them. She's seen at 6:32 driving up Kellen. That's 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Wait, hold on. Let me listen to this again.
Screaming, and he was three-wayed. He three-wayed law enforcement and was telling them our son is missing and we don't know what's going on, and he was go back to the house, they're on their way, and I ran back.
I ran back. Oh, I drove back. Oh, is that why she says she ran back? Because she's not even in the car yet? Because she doesn't leave until 6:20 or 6:22. Interesting. So she hasn't even left the house. I mean, I don't know. Again, this is really heavy speculation here, of course. But and I got to listen to that a few more times the way that's said. But all right, let me get to chat real quick. NJ's, thank you. God bless you, sweetheart. I'm going to try to reach out to you in email. I know Reporter Room wanted to maybe do an interview. I'll see if I can get back to you. Great life, Chris. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Serenity says, I don't know if he ever said himself what time he got to work. One of the PIs said she first verified, 5:15. Well, yeah, she called someone, and I'm sorry I didn't play that part of the clip. I wanted to, but I had so many things cooking in the kitchen. But yeah, once at 5:15, but then again, like I said, he doesn't start until 7 a.m. What in the hell is he doing at the construction site at 5:15? So I do wonder if that was maybe somebody, that maybe it was closer to Chris, and maybe it was kind of fibbing, because according to Silvers, he spoke to others and said no, he wasn't there till about 6:30. Which makes more sense because you would start around 7 a.m. Most people show up, I guess depending on, what job you have, but, 15 minutes before or whatever, 30 minutes. I don't think you're going to show up 2 hours before. Could be wrong. But yeah, great. Great point. Leslie and Billy, good to see you. God bless you. Membership for 6 months now. That's so awesome.
At this point, I was hysterical and I was crying, I was screaming, and
yeah.
He was
I apologize that it says 911. I only put that up there because I didn't know if it was Salt Lake the sheriff county's office, or I should have said emergency. It's really just to show that he's like saying, hey, this is when I'm speaking with my wife. Now I'm calling them. And I think I just didn't have a lot of room, so I think I just put, but yeah. So not 911. It's just there to show like when he had alerted to calling the SCSO or HPD. I'll fix that if I can. Yes, I woke him up, but he wasn't there. Right. Yeah, how do you wake someone up if they're not there in the first place? Yeah, great. Great catch. Ran back. Oh, yeah, when she's kind of saying, like, ran back to the house. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. That could be it, too. For sure.
He was playing. When he went to bed, when I told him to go to bed, he said, I love you, Mama, and he said, I love you, puppies. A little later in the evening, I myself went to bed, and when I went to wake him up for school, he wasn't here.
Oh, right there. There it is.
12 and 6.
That's the one, right? That was it right there.
He said, I love you, Mama, and he said, I love you, puppies. A little later in the evening, I myself went to bed, and when I went to wake him up for school,
he wasn't there.
He wasn't here.
When I went to wake him up. Is it that one, or is it a slightly different one? No, that is the one, yeah. Yeah, that is a weird statement, for sure. Yeah, people have talked about that fake out. Yeah. So, again, there's the car. It is her car. Again, I know the Bowersox have a car similar to it, but again, the back end is got the square, so it's definitely not theirs. It's definitely Mama. I always want to say Mama Sucks. It's Mama Feet. KP at 6:32, but man, that is
home.
I don't know, something
And safely.
Something's off.
There's been a land.
And again, we've got this weird car. Oh, let me just remind you one more thing, right? Because remember how, and thank you. I'll shout this person out when I get to it. Just basically one main thing here, and then we'll kind of finish up. But oh no, that's the wrong one. I just saw it. Oh, is that it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one. This one's so... Okay. Pull this up real quick. Where you at? There it is. So let me remind you, Steve Fisher, what he said one time about this car, because that has been asked multiple times. We know who this car is. It is in the video. We know the exact car and the owner of it and why he was there. It's fun, interesting. He goes, even says it's a he. It's a kid that was at his girlfriend's parents' house. And when was this? Do we have a date on this one? We have a time. Whoever sent me this, if they know the date, maybe someone knows in chat. I know that was a while ago. I know that was sometime last year, but I can tell you that makes 0 sense. And I can tell you, speaking with the locals, nobody heard about. I mean, that would have been widely known. Like if kids dropping off, like a girlfriend or something like that. Yeah, that certainly didn't happen. No one's heard about that. So, and then if you missed my live on Wednesday, I think I kind of figured out why he began to mention that at this point,
to find out who that is and whatnot, and they go after these things are for the neighborhood.
Why he goes on to mention all of these.
It's a known person, but not necessarily a resident.
At first he starts with the Uber driver, then he goes to Amazon delivery driver. Nobody's going to be delivering. Not to say they don't do that, but I don't think they deliver after a certain time, right? And then he says it's not a residence, but it's known to be a residence, it's not a family member. Then he goes on to say, well, there's construction going on, construction worker. And then he says, no, well, it's not a construction worker. And now it makes sense of why he was saying that. He knew that the vehicle was at least seen at least twice around the same time, like back-to-back days. And so I think he used that to just say, oh, well, that's got to be like an Uber driver or Amazon or, maybe the construction or something. Even though none of those make 0 sense. The closest would be maybe an Uber Eats, right? But nobody in the neighborhood has heard anybody about getting Uber Eats. They knew about the Uber driver that picked up the guy at the airport. And so, again, I think he was just kind of spitballing. But really has no, because I mean, how would he know who this person is? Yet a lot of these locals, and a lot of them, again, they're not coming forward out directly, but a lot of them are starting to come together to speak with one another, and none of them have no idea who this person is. And we know SF has twisted people's words in the past, and that's kind of why. Things have been happening behind the scenes, especially since the anniversary where he kind of betrayed the trust of a certain individual, and now that's just kind of created some camaraderie. I can't speak. People come together, because again they feel used, and again, this homeowner here, just to finish up one more time, this homeowner here has the 3 a.m. lights video. He literally spoke to a part of the team of fishers and somebody else, and literally told them that, yeah, there was a car sitting in across the street here. But, of course, he's not going to tell you that. But now he's kind of twisted it to, somebody, with the lights being somebody with their flashlight taking out their trash at 5 o'clock. And that's what these, mysterious lights are, going on in the background, but has yet to identify what this giant thing is right here. And there's a reason for that, because, obviously that's kind of like the elephant in the room, and it's pretty obviously that's not just somebody with a flashlight. I mean, if you compare this being a flashlight, 100 feet away, even though this is much closer, I mean, this is a very strong source of light that is being ejected out. And obviously it's pretty, to deduce what it is, right? It's
somewhere
a car.
between.
So anyway. Oh, did he go to say it's a paper boy now? So just to let you guys know, so I think it's the main paper. They only get it once a week because remember, nobody gets papers anymore. You have the internet, right? I think there's one person in the neighborhood that gets a paper, and that only gets delivered once a week, Thursday. And then the other one, here, we can just look it up right now. What time do paper boys usually start their route? Just before, like I said, between 5 and 6 a.m. Look at that. Wow. That's almost as if I did that for, I think, like 6 months, a little less than 6 months. It wasn't very long. And then I helped my buddy. So here, this is the big one, right? Because you got to remember, newspapers, they're getting stories all the way up until late to the night, right? Sometimes there's, like here in Utah, right? We'll have like jazz games, NBA, right? And they won't finish until, sometimes 10, 11 o'clock, if it goes into overtime. Right, and so those scores, because that's our only big professional team, right? So that game, if that game happened the night before, people, that's the thing that we want to read. Back when we didn't have really the internet, or the internet was, what I mean, late 90s. But yeah, stories are still getting published up until like 1, 2 a.m. and then they got to make the papers, right? And then those aren't done until between 3 and 4. And then, somewhere about 4 to 4:30 is when those papers start going out to all the paper boys and stuff. So, and it isn't until, and then of course we have to put those papers aren't in order for those that have done Paperboy. Those papers aren't in order. We have to literally, again, now this was 30 years ago. I don't know what, I'm sure some things had changed. I'm sure a lot's changed since then. But yeah, we had to do a lot just before we even started to be able to deliver the papers. We had to, wrap them up, put them in the little sleeves. I mean, that was half the job itself. Was when we got them, we spent an hour, or depending on how big the route was. So yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like, no papers getting delivered at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's something I'm keeping an eye on that, Brenda. That is weird. So the whole school thing, right? There's always been kind of, a question of why did she drive to the school, right? Even though school doesn't start until 8 a.m., right? The first thing that Seth Rogers noticed when he went into that home when he got there, is he noticed Sebastian Rogers' shoes, right? It's the first thing he noticed. He walked in. Well, shit, there's all of his shoes right there. The father. You're telling me his own mother, when waking up, freaking out, isn't put into this, because, people, when you get into that realm of where you're, what's the word I'm looking at? Adrenaline, you're going through and it kind of time slows down and it speeds up. It's kind of, double-edged sword there. But you're very alert. And obviously you would think as she's walking up to that door, the first thing she would see is those shoes, But anyway, she still decided that she needed to drive to the school, right? And then allegedly, I don't know, there's some rumors that maybe Mama Socks, was there or being dropped off. Still, that's a little more on the theory speculative side, of course, theory, whatever. But yeah. And then, of course, Jennifer Coffindaffer made a great point, which, again, I hate to bring this up because I always pray that, he's alive out there somewhere. But, if you're moving a body, you're not going to worry about putting shoes on a body, right? Again, hopefully that body's just unconscious, right? But again, she made a great point about that. It's something she's noticed in previous cases. So again, I really hope it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's still bad, of course, but I do pray that there is a silver lining. Desi, if you need to email me, that's Desi. I mean, that's just YouTube. You can only type so much. You can email me if you have something. The email's in the link in the description. It's also in the chat being posted. If you have something you want to tell me, again, I can't guarantee 100% I'll get to it right away. I get so many emails. But that would be the best way if you have something to tell me. Yeah, that's true. If you're in a panic, you're not going to take of your belongings. I'm not sure. I mean, I agree to disagree. I would think you would be pretty alert. Again, the father walks in. What's the first thing he notices? The shoes are there. The mother's running around the house, and just before she goes out, she clearly goes out the front door because she's seen at 6:20 doing so. She's caught on camera, so she clearly goes out the front door. She doesn't have the thought to think, oh man, I should look down and see if his shoes are here, right? Especially when he has this whole issue with, he needs to have some kind of footwear on, right? This is like one of his things. He needs to have footwear on, so you would think like, oh, let's see what pair he took if he's gone out, so that way I can get that out or look out for those. But I don't know. Aren't this a 3 a.m. delivery? How would they have the paper done? I mean, they're writing the paper. I mean, I get it. They write the paper, but you have like sports section. Sometimes sports don't go or finish until almost 11 or midnight. I mean, it just kind of depends. The story's developing all the way up to midnight. And then they've got to print those papers. Now, I'm sure a lot's changed since 30 years, but I don't know. But again, like I said, they don't get them. Only one person has a subscription that we know of, and that's on Thursdays. So, yeah. Newspaper, no. I think someone would have figured that out a long time ago. Remember, if SF knew who this person was, remember he said it was some guy dropping his girlfriend off, but yet nobody knows who that is. Now it's turned into an Uber Amazon delivery driver, but nobody knows who's getting that ordered, right? So we'll definitely see. Blackbird says, I live in the city. I don't get 3 a.m. delivery. Yeah, maybe something's changed since I did it 20 years ago. But again, they only get it once a week, and it's on Thursday. And it's not on Kellen. Or if it's on Kellen, it's at the very bottom. I don't want to give the exact address away. But anyway, because they see it, they see the person getting it delivered, and it's not at 3:00 in the morning, right? They see it like I'm not sure. Maybe the next time I get speak with some of the locals, I'll see if I can get the time that they see the paper getting delivered to the one person. But anyway, yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah, I don't think he's being 100% truthful. I am listed in the court documents. Yeah. I don't know if that's like... I mean, I love Mysteries Crimecast. I don't know if that's... You know... I've done this long enough to know that there's nothing like... Unless, you know, I found something out and they need my testimony. But, you know, I've never harassed anybody or... done anything on that. I don't know. If I get time, I'll look at it. I'm not worried about that. To me, all that the law stuff is nonsense. To me, I mean, God Almighty, that's all just distractions, in my opinion. Not to say that's what Mr. E's doing, because I do respect their channel, and I know they have some interesting sources, so. Oh God, yeah, like what? Like, is this a scare tactic, right? Like for what, right? Anyway, unless we're gonna lose our, you know, our First Amendment right, you know, speech, free speech. I highly doubt you're mentioning in a negative way. Yeah, right. Again, I've been doing this a long time. Not saying I'm like an expert, but like I'm routinely saying allegedly, you know, and all I've been doing is studying surveillance footage and you know, trying to keep it real. Again, we still speculate, but again, that's literally what YouTube, TikTok is. Most people tune in to for their news. People tune into obviously YouTubers, TikTokers, what have you, for their source of updates, right? Because, you know, the local media or whatever, you know, sometimes have an agenda, right wing, left wing, whatever, and then you don't get the deep dives, right? So it's much more personable, and yeah, that is interesting. Again, if I get time, I'll check it out. I'm not worried about it. Like, again, if you are on the other side and all you're worried about is what other people are doing, right? Then, and you're not worried about focused on Sebastian, and that just shows that you're just worried about something coming out that you don't want out there. I guess, I don't know. To me, this is such an odd upside down case that is just so backwards. But so it's almost. Oh, I got you. As if it was posted on X, talking ugly about yeah. Again, I have thick skin on this. To be able to do this job, you have to have thick skin. But I appreciate it, buddy. You know, again, I just want the answers. And again, I've said this in the very beginning. Like, if I had footage and it showed Seth Rogers, by himself carrying Sebastian out, putting in a car, if I saw that, I would turn it into TBI in a heartbeat. I could care less, who's involved. I just want Sebastian found and a resolution, and we can move on to the next case. But it is what it is. Yeah. Oh, thank you, me. Yeah, you guys are amazing. We have such a great community here, and thank you to my wonderful mods. I've gone on a lot longer than I wanted to. I do apologize. Oh no, I'm not going to change a damn thing. Again, like I said, I've done this long enough to know that like, yeah, I'm not doing anything wrong. But yeah, I appreciate the update. I did hear that they were doing something like that, but yeah. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of or start of your weekend. We will definitely have a members live, and we'll have a little competition. We'll do some Wordle. I always forget the name of that. It's terrible. I am working on some Brian Koberger stuff as well, so I may have a video out maybe today or tomorrow. Definitely for the Patreons and members, because I always try to get content at least once a week for them. And then yeah, so. Yeah. People, yeah. Oh, thank you, Lily. God bless you guys. If by chance you sent like a Venmo or PayPal and I didn't get it yet, just thank you in advance and I'll thank you in the next one. But it does help this channel out. And I do appreciate everybody that was able to come in, support this channel one way or another. Because again, I can't do it without you guys. So with that, I will see you guys Sunday. And unless there's something big that comes out, and then we'll cover that before that. But